Hey, I'm Luna, and I'm going to show you how to make a really beautiful pleasure butter, which is, like a kind of body butter that you can use for self-pleasure, that you can use on your genitals and even internally. I found this recipe when a friend was giving me a tantra massage, and I found this really nice because a lot of the time I'll use just like coconut oil or almond oil, but then I find it's sometimes like a little too thin if you're really wanting that like thick, creamy, more real feeling like lubrication. So this is a pretty simple recipe that you can do to make something that's a bit thicker. You want to have something that you can heat the different oils on. Obviously it's preferable to have a metal ball, but I'm just using what I have, like a regular ball in here. And then I've got some here beeswax. So I'm just going to put a very small amount chopped up of the beeswax and cocoa butter. So these are what's going to make it really more like thick and fatty there. So these also can take the longest to heat up. So you want to just let them melt. You can also use a microwave, obviously. So mine are starting to melt here. Then I've got here a jar of coconut oil. It was like half full, so I'm actually going to use the rest of that once this is melted. And here I have a bit of almond oil that I've been actually infusing with blue lotus because I have some blue lotus oil that a friend gave me. I love the smell of it, I'm just like a massive fan of blue lotus, so I started infusing this oil, so I'm just going to strain that into there as well. So almond oil is really, really good for the skin. It's got lots of vitamin E in it, so it's also really good to use in this. So once the beeswax and the cocoa butter have melted completely, then you can add the coconut oil. And mix it all together. You might want to use an immersion blender if you really want to make sure it's super mixed, but I find just whisking is enough. And once it's all done, then you can put it back into the jar. So I'm going to just be using this coconut oil jar. It's pretty thick, so you don't want to be putting it in a bottle or something like that. You want something that you can scoop it out of. So making sure that you don't get any water into the mix. And just keeping it in a jar, and then as this cools down it will change consistency a lot, so I'll show you what it looks like after. Right now it's just this yellowy liquid, but obviously when it cools it's going to change because of the cocoa butter and the beeswax and also coconut oil because it's quite cold at the moment. And this is the final product. So have a nice creamy, thicker body oil that you can use internally, externally, and it's really nice. It smells really delicious from the cocoa butter and coconut oil. So yeah, highly recommend you try it out. And another note, so if you are using this with people's genitals, then make sure that you aren't dipping in, touching people, dipping in, etc. So you want to use a spoon, or make sure that your hands are sanitized and clean so that you're not cross-contaminating in this. And as far as any other scents or something like that, you only want to use things that are edible. So, I put a little bit of Blue Lotus in this. You could infuse rose into the oil. Just make sure that the roses are dried before you put them in the oil so that the water doesn't make it rancid. You could maybe even use like vanilla or some doTERRA oils, as long as whatever you're putting in is something that is edible and isn't going to cause problems internally if you're using it internally.